Falcons. Is it a potential crap game? That's the question for the day, and that's one we'll answer right after this.
Let's go get him. Let's go get him today, man. Let's go. Hey, dominate on 3. 1, 2, 3, dominate.
What's going on, everybody? Me and Marco, we're back with another episode of 49ers Red Zone. The 49ers, like I said, defeated the Carolina Panthers last week. We're here to break that game down and also give you guys a preview of our thoughts on the 49ers versus Falcons matchup. But before we start, Marco, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. Just freaking Mike just broke on me, so I'm having to work with it. I also see that Dante Pettis is a number one receiver on the Chicago Bears. I mean, the 49ers should have kept him. I mean, everyone knew he was that superstar. I mean, it is what it is, you know? You lose
It's that Dante Pettis revenge game. You know how it be. Dante Pettis is a star.
Yeah, he's incredible. But going to the 49ers, man, a lot of injuries, a lot of concerns on injuries there, right? Like, it sucks that it comes at this time. However, the only good thing is the 49ers play the Atlanta Falcons. So, like, I don't think it should play a big factor because the 49ers backup are much better than the Atlanta Falcons starters. So,
and I mean, when you talk about the 49ers and the Atlanta Falcons, the Falcons, they've had an interesting year this year, right? Their offensive line has been pretty solid compared to expectations. And when you talk about that offense, Marcus Mariota, he's been up and down, but they've been in close games. They've lost close games, but they've been in close games. I know they won a close game against the Seattle Seahawks, but it's been an intriguing team and, in a way, a very Falcon-esque year for the Falcons.
yeah, absolutely. Like, but the thing is like they've actually competed with some good teams. Like, yeah, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they competed with them for the most part. I mean, yes, Tom Brady did look pretty damn good against them, but when they needed key stops against Tom Brady, they got key stops, especially in the second half. They generated a lot of stops in the second half against Tom Brady. They held him to 21 points. They should have had the ball back to have a game-winning drive or potentially a game-tying drive.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that situation occurred, and everyone knows the play, the roughing the
Grady
passer
Jarrett sack.
Grady Jarrett. Yeah, so like, I mean, when you look at the Atlanta Falcons, they're competing, and as a young group like that, a team that isn't supposed to be a playoff contender is still looking for a quarterback, but they have some good guys on offense. Cordell Patterson is on the IR, so I mean they're a little bit banged up as well. I mean every team is at this point, but the 49ers are facing some very, very bad injuries, like key guys. So it just sucks to see. Going into this game, I definitely had this game marked up as a big W. I don't see any difference, but I do want to talk a little bit about a couple things before we even talk about the Atlanta Falcons, because on the timeline, all I see is Jimmy Garoppolo this, Jimmy Garoppolo that, a new Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo is fantastic. Jimmy Garoppolo is fabulous. Everyone needs to apologize to Jimmy Garoppolo because he's handsome. Everyone needs to, like, everything I see on the timeline is praising the crap out of Jimmy Garoppolo for stuff that I don't think it's a new Jimmy Garoppolo. It's the same damn Jimmy Garoppolo we've always seen, but people are starting to realize that if he throws deep or he attempts these deep shots that he's making, and don't get me wrong, he played a good game last week.
Mm-hmm.
But Jimmy Garoppolo is the same quarterback he has been the last 5 years he's been with the 49ers. I don't get it, Rohan. Do you see a new Jimmy Garoppolo, or is this Jimmy Garoppolo of the last 3-4 years we've seen?
Now, I think this question's intriguing. And the reason that it's coming out a little more after this game is because of the way that Jimmy Garoppolo threw the football, right? And what I mean by that, you saw him take there were two throws in particular. You saw him take all-out blitzes One of them where he went through progressions and then hit his third progression, Tevin Coleman, obviously on a really good catch by Tevin Coleman. The second one was the all-out blitz where he threw to Ayuk. It was a nice play. I think people have seen Jimmy Garoppolo make certain throws before, but the issue with Jimmy Garoppolo, I've said this, nobody questions that Jimmy Garoppolo can't make certain plays. They question whether he can make them consistently and accurately. That's been the issue with Garoppolo. He has missed on many key opportunities while making turnover-worthy plays. Those are the two attributes that have really led to the limited potential when you talk about Jimmy Garoppolo. He's a good average starter. That's where he is. He's a solid maybe top 20 option as a starter, somewhere in that 17 to 20 range, probably as a starting quarterback in the NFL. But when you talk specifically about this game, I'm not going to say that there's a new Jimmy Garoppolo, but I'm not going to lie and say that if you're talking about some of the tendencies that he's showcased in this game, if they continue to show up for the 49ers, that they aren't in a better spot than they were 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but so I get exactly what you're saying, right? The tendency that they continue to show up consistently on a week-to-week basis. Then you can start saying, okay, well, maybe Jimmy Garoppolo is playing with a little bit more edge and a chip on his shoulder because he's fighting for a quarterback job, right? He's literally showcasing his talents for every team. Particularly, I believe he's showcasing his talent for the Washington Commanders. Like, they're playing Thursday Night Football.
Should have
The
traded
game is
for
on
him.
in the background. That's it. Or even the Carolina Panthers, who may even make a move like that, right? So he's showcasing what he got. And realistically, over one game, right? 2 games ago, everyone was talking about how poor Jimmy Garoppolo played. And then now all of a sudden, everyone's like, Jimmy Garoppolo is the hero. Oh my God, Jimmy Garoppolo, we adore you. We love you. You are a handsome man. Thank you for doing what you did. Bro, it was the Carolina Panthers. Are we like, don't get me wrong. Carolina had a decent defense. I talked about that. They had a decent defense. But it isn't the Kansas City Chiefs where Kansas City has a atrocious defense, but where he's having to keep up with Patrick Mahomes or somewhat of a high caliber offense. We weren't asking him to do much. All he needed to score was 17 points. I mean, yes, he scored 30 points. The offense scored 30 points. Defense gave them 7 points. So for me, I'm very dumbfounded by the way everyone is going and talking about Jimmy Garoppolo on the timeline. It does not make sense to me. It does not make sense for big-time analysts to be saying Jimmy Garoppolo is some quarterback that we've never seen before. We know what Jimmy Garoppolo is, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say Jimmy Garoppolo sucks. I'm not saying that. Jimmy Garoppolo is a good quarterback. He is not good enough. What he showed on Sunday against the Carolina Panthers is good enough. That is a quarterback.
I agree.
If you have him
there
in
we
the
go.
playoffs,
that's the point that you got to hit. That's exactly it. Because the question I was about to ask you, or I'll wait for you to finish and then I'll ask you your question.
Because if you have him in the playoffs doing what he did Sunday against free runners, making those kind of throws where a back shoulder throw to Brandon Ayuk, a 50-50 ball to Tevin Coleman who comes down with it, trusting your receivers, if you're making those kind of throws in the playoffs or against high caliber teams or good defenses, then it's like, okay, Jimmy Garoppolo is good enough. But right now, he's playing against the last 2 games we played. We played against the Carolina Panthers and we played against the Los Angeles Rams where he didn't have to do anything, Rohan. Realistically, he did not have to score the football. Defense gave him 7 points and they barely scored, 24 points in that game? 24-9? You scored 17 as an offense, so it was 17-9. The offense struggled against the Los Angeles Rams, who were actually very banged up in the secondary. I'm not trying to be a super critic, a downer. I'm enjoying every 49er win. Like I told Rohan the other day, I love Sundays right now because I'm stepping away as a analyst when I'm like a podcaster or a content creator. I'm stepping away on Sundays. I'm fully watching the games as a fan, and I come back to the game on Monday and I watched it all 22. Tuesday, I'll watch it again. I'll watch it twice, 3 times, sometimes throughout the week. But Jimmy Garoppolo is no new quarterback. I would not be surprised if Jimmy Garoppolo goes back to being himself. Everyone forgets that Carolina Panthers game, Jimmy Garoppolo should have thrown 2 interceptions. 2 balls right in the hands of a Carolina Panther player.
Yeah.
So to me,
there are those turnover-worthy plays, right? There are some. To me, I think he limited turnover-worthy plays compared to how he normally plays, which is why I want to ask you this question. Can the 49ers win a Super Bowl if Jimmy Garoppolo plays like he did on Sunday?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
I think the 49ers, if Jimmy Garoppolo plays like that, I think the 49ers are Super Bowl contenders.
Rohan, if we're playing against a Super Bowl caliber team, no. Because check this out.
I don't think that changes it because Kyle Shanahan is able to scheme receivers open. With the way that you played on Sunday, it's not like the Panthers are a bad defense, but the way that they played on Sunday, I don't think, like, you see him make tight window throws. Against a tough defense, there are still going to be tight window throws. You saw him give receivers a chance, and you saw him also throw balls in tight coverages and come down with completions, right? I think he played, like, I don't think he played an A game. I forget what I graded. I think I graded him a B or a B plus. I don't think he played an A game in my expectations for a quarterback. But I think that given with the way that the defense plays, is a Super Bowl level team.
So the reason why I say no isn't because I don't think how he played was exceptional. I thought he played good. I really do. I think he played very well football. But when you're throwing the ball at safeties right in their chest, in a Super Bowl, they're not dropping that. And I'm being real. In a Super Bowl, if you're playing the Bills, that's Jordan Poyer on that. At that, you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs. That's most likely Justin Reed. I don't see those guys dropping those kind of passes. And then even in a Super Bowl, in the playoffs, you have to make those high level throws every single play, right? Like it's not just you throw 3 high level throws in a game, and it's like that was enough. In a Super Bowl, in the playoffs, teams make everything tight. And if you're not making those big time throws almost every other play in the playoffs, you're not good enough. And I haven't seen that from Jimmy Garoppolo long enough to say if he plays how he did Sunday, we will win the Super Bowl, because how he played, it was good football. But he should have had 2. I'm gonna keep it real. No one's talking about it, but he should have had 2 interceptions. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Yes, I said that, right? But we look at it, Rohan. He didn't play his best game he's ever played. And we're talking about it like he's played his best level of game. You know what I mean? So for me, it's one of those ones where I think Jimmy Garoppolo can even get better. And that's why I'm very kind of in this area where it's like I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything. I'm not gonna say Jimmy Garoppolo is a new quarterback, because I've seen a better Jimmy Garoppolo than this. He's still flat-footed in the pocket. He still gets those happy feet, doesn't know what to do with the ball, and he double pats before he throws. So that's why those bad habits will continue to come, because he has those habits. Now, enough about Jimmy Garoppolo after what you ever have to say, because Jimmy Garoppolo is who he is, and the 49ers have a hell of a defense.
I think the biggest question is what I raised earlier. The biggest question with him over the past 5 years has been consistency. Can he be consistent? So he's had 2 fairly solid performances. And by that, I'm not saying that he was an elite quarterback. I'm not saying that. But he's had 2 good performances that I don't think should be taken away from him. Can he continue to go through that? The epitome of consistency with Jimmy Garoppolo, just look at the interception numbers. Jimmy Garoppolo has never gone 3 games in his career without throwing an interception. That streak could end against the Falcons. And that's just one statistic. I'm not trying to say that changes the entire world. But to me, I want Jimmy Garoppolo to continue to be consistent. If he can do that, I think the 49ers can increase their potential as an offense. Yes, it was the Carolina Panthers, but the 49ers offense scored 30 points for the first time this past weekend. And I felt that they put several points on the board still with missed opportunities with the offense. So to me, the point that I'm trying to make is we're still scratching the potential that this offense could hit. And it's only going to truly hit if Jimmy Garoppolo can continue to be consistent with the way that he's playing football.
So I said I was done with Jimmy Garoppolo right now.
Go for one more and then we'll move on.
You literally just jinxed it, dude. You literally said he hasn't thrown.
Do I look like I care if I jinx something? Nah.
But hey, no. So if they lose and you jinxed him, I'm blaming it all on you, because you said he hasn't.
Perfect.
Thrown. See,
give me all the blame.
Every game I've been expecting an interception. Like as a fan, I'm like, Jimmy Garoppolo's done his interception. When that interception was dropped, and the thing is, it was early in the game. It was like the second, third drive at most. I was like, dang, if that gets picked off, you give Carolina the ball at probably like the 25, 20,
Right.
30. You give them 3 points and you give them like that confidence that, hey, we can actually hang with a team like this. That's when like things turn, and like that's when teams that are good lose to teams like the Carolina Panthers and teams like the Atlanta Falcons. Now, when we look at the Atlanta Falcons, right? So everyone likes to talk about Marcus Mariota and stuff like that, the quarterback they have. But realistically, what I really want to talk about is I want to talk about their run game, right? Like let's get big and ugly. Like to me, the Atlanta Falcons are an offense that could run the damn ball pretty damn good. They average 100. I want to say last time I checked, I'm not a stat guy like you, but I want to say it's 165 last time I checked. They average 165 yards on the ground. Now Cordell Patterson is out, so they are running with a
you're actually spot on, because the Atlanta Falcons in my research was third in the NFL with 164.6 per game.
See, sometimes I know it. Every once in a while, I know what I'm talking about. Not too often that I'm right like that. Every time I look at stats or whatever, I try to keep them in my head for when we talk about stuff. I don't like to write anything down because I like to be very authentic. I like to. To be honest, I'm just trying to be real. Like I don't like to be. I just like to F it. Let's go with whatever I say is whatever I say, and that's the beauty of it. Because if you guys are listening, you guys definitely get to like whatever I say and it's wrong. Go back and freaking blast me. I don't care. Like I don't. But going to what the Atlanta Falcons are, right? Like Rohan, their run game is probably the best run game we've seen all season. In my opinion, I think
if they had Cordero Patterson, I would agree.
I think
without him though,
Patterson out,
I can't agree. Without him, I can't agree. Why? Because when you look at last week last week was, I think, the biggest indicator, right? Cordero Patterson departed the week before against the Cleveland Browns when they won 23-20. But last week, I think, was the biggest indicator. That was the first week in which teams really game planned without Cordero Patterson. Tyler Algier, their top running back, had 13 carries for 45 yards, and then their backup, Caleb Huntley, had 8 carries for 34 yards. Overall, they rushed for 151 yards on 5 yards a carry, but that running offense isn't necessarily a regular running offense. Instead, it's really predicated on Marcus Mariota's success. He's the one who really boosts that average. They rush for 5.1 yards per carry this season, but he's the one that's boosting that average because he averages nearly, I believe it's 7 to 9 yards per carry, somewhere around that range. So he's averaging actually a pretty good amount in general. At least that was last week. It was somewhere in that range. So to me, I actually don't think it's as strong as people believe just because Cordell Patterson is not there. But if he was, then I'd agree.
So I think it's actually pretty solid too, because if you look at guys like Huntley, guys like Algier, I don't want to say his last name, and then they also have another guy on the roster,
Avery Williams.
Avery Williams. They're all averaging like 5 yards at 4.7 to 5 yards a carry. So when you add, in my opinion, I think they're more natural runners than Cordell Patterson because they played running back their entire life, but they haven't. I can get what you mean. So like for me, when I watch them on tape, I think they're a better running team without Cordell Patterson. And don't get me wrong, Cordell Patterson has been fantastic this year and last year. He's been a hell of a player. But now when you put guys in the backfield who are actually true runners, and then you don't have I'm not expecting Javon Kinlaw or Arik Armstead to play, and you don't have those guys. I think their offensive line is good enough to move people around and actually run the ball on us. Now, I'm not concerned about their pass game at all. Their pass game is absolutely terrible, and that's me being nice. Drake London, good dude. Kyle Pitts, good player. Like those are good players. But now when you have a quarterback who can't really throw to them, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
I mean, you can't say anything against that, right? Marcus Mariota is averaging 185 yards, passing yards per game. That's a pretty meager amount. And then compile that with his really, really low 57% completion percentage. And then also 4 touchdowns to 4 interception, touchdown to interception ratio. It's not good statistically, and the film backs it up. The reason that the Atlanta Falcons have been able to move the ball is through the ground. And a big component that we haven't touched on yet that they are able to move the ball because of is their offensive line. Their tackles have been pretty good this year. Overall, that offensive line has been pretty good. When you talk about Caleb McGarry, Chris Lindstrom, guys like that, and even Drew Dahlman has been a pretty good run blocker for the Atlanta Falcons out of Stanford this year. That's a pretty good offensive group in terms of a young and improving offensive line compiled with a running game that matches what Arthur Smith wants to do. Remember, Arthur Smith, in a way, is no slouch when you talk about him in the running game. He obviously was in Tennessee, coached one of the more prolific rushing attacks with Derrick Henry, with that offensive line there. And he's brought the concepts here. I think the way that he calls runs is pretty efficient. I mean, you look at the numbers, it's been pretty efficient all year. And so I think that definitely is a factor for the Atlanta Falcons offense.
No, absolutely. And I think so for me, the way I would attack the 49ers, right? We don't know if Jason Verrett's going to be playing. We don't know if, obviously, Emmanuel Mosley goes down with ACL. Prayers up to him. Hopefully he has a speedy recovery, and hopefully he gets the bag that he deserves. I thought he was a hell of a player. I would have extended him before the season because I already knew he was going to come in and play how he has played. Sadly, he goes down to injury. Nick Bosa might not play due to that groin or whatever injury he's dealing with. You don't have Armstead, no Javon Kinlaw. And then on the other players, Jimmy Ward playing with a broken hand possibly. So you have a lot of guys on the defense that are banged up. Now, I still believe the 49ers are a top 5 defense, even with these guys out because of the depth. But when you have guys like that, right, when you have guys like Nick Bosa out, you don't have to be too cautious on double teaming Nick Bosa. You could go man up on everyone across the board. And now you could kind of get a little creative in the passing game with Drake London, Kyle Pitts. If I'm Atlanta, what I do if Jason Verrett is not playing, whoever is opposite of Charvarius Ward, I'm attacking that side every single time. No matter who it is, whether it's Ambry Thomas, Denomino Lenore, Samuel Womack, I'm attacking those guys.
Even if it's Jason Verrett, I think you attack it just because he's coming straight off injury and starting in the starting lineup.
See, I would too. I would too, but if Jason Verrett's playing, and he's healthy,
you target the slot guy, but yeah,
I'm going after whoever's in the slot, whether that's Demo, whether that's Womack. But talking about the Atlanta Falcons, what do they need to do to beat the 49ers? Because we know the 49ers have a top defense. We know the 49ers are who they are. Like, we know who they are now. After 5 games of the season is usually who you know what teams are. What are the 49ers, and how do you beat them if you're the Atlanta Falcons, Rohan?
You've got to implement the quick game, but the quick game can't be a regular quick game. This can't be a screen game. This can't be one of those games where you work in that facet for a majority of the game. At least I wouldn't say set the tone early with that. Why? The 49ers are one of the better teams in the NFL at defending the screen because they've got linebackers in Fred Warner and Drake Greenlaw who are not only aggressive but surefire tacklers. When you look at the statistics, Drake Greenlaw has missed 1 tackle in his last, I believe, 20 plus opportunities. He has a missed tackle rate this year of under 6%, which is a pretty damn good rate for a linebacker. Fred Warner hasn't missed a single tackle in the last 2 weeks, and he's had significant volume. Then when you look at the outside, you talk about guys like Charvarius Ward, a guy who hasn't missed a tackle this year. Sean Gibson hasn't missed a tackle this year. That's 4 of the key players in the linebacker or secondary unit. And while Talanoa Hufanga has missed his fair share of tackles, he's an aggressive guy. He's not at all afraid of going straight downhill, and if he misses, somebody else cleans it up. So to me, it's operating a quick game, but also utilizing those in-breaking routes. Something where you can get the ball out of Marcus Mariota's hands easy, but also make it efficient for him. And I would definitely target opposite of Charvarius Ward. Ward has been locked down. Mosley has been locked down as well. Had a really good game this past weekend. But Deommodore Lenoir out of the slot, I'm not going to say he got cooked because playing the slot is one of the hardest positions in football. But that's where Baker Mayfield was looking, and that's where most of the catches came out of. I believe Lenoir gave up over 5 catches, including a deep 31-yard pass to Shi Smith, and then another 18-yard pass over the middle to DJ Moore. Those were the 2 biggest completions. You get those 6-7-yard completions, similar to what the Rams did against the 49ers early in that game to get the ball moving and trying to get into opposing territory. I think that's how you hold them on offense, hold them while you're on offense, but also drain the clock so that the defense has to stay on the field. And remember, like we said, this is a depleted defense. No Mosley, probably no Nick Bosa, although he might play. Samson Ebukam came back to practice today, but you're going to be missing a couple of pieces on this defense.
See, if I'm the 49ers, even if Nick Bosa is going to play, I sit him. There's no reason
Yeah,
to.
I
There's no
agree.
reason to really play him even through a groin injury that he's dealing with. Like whether it's a big injury, small injury, if it's bothering him, I don't play him. There's no reason to. You have enough firepower on defense. You should have enough firepower on offense to beat the Atlanta Falcons with your backups, and it is what it is. Um, but if I'm the Atlanta Falcons, what I do in the pass game, it's gonna sound interesting, but I'm attacking the linebackers with Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Now,
Really?
everyone's probably like, why would you attack Fred Warner? Not Fred Warner. I'm attacking Dre Greenlaw, DFF. I'm matching up Kyle Pitts on those two dudes somehow, some way. Whether it's on crossing routes, whether it's on, I'm figuring out a way to get Kyle Pitts matched up on Dre Greenlaw one-on-one as many times as I can.
Wait, who's Kyle Pitts again?
Oh, that's that dude that the Arthur Smith doesn't want to get the ball in. Doesn't like
he's the guy who he hates, right? Cal Pitts probably did something. Yeah, got
it.
Yeah,
usually coaches try putting the ball in their playmakers' hands, but instead what he wants to do is do the complete opposite. Don't put the ball in your playmakers' hands because it's not fantasy football. We're trying to win games here, all right, Rohan? We're trying to win games. All right.
I got you.
So, but if I'm Arthur Smith, if like I'm being smart, Arthur Smith, I'm getting the ball into Kyle Pitts' hand as much as possible. Whether that's matched up on Jason Verrett, whether that's matched up on the slot, whether that's Demo, Samuel Womack. I'm matching them up on those guys, including Dre Greenlaw, as many times as I can, and I'm attacking that. I'm exploiting that matchup because Kyle Pitts on those three dudes, whether Jason Verrett is healthy or not, I think he has the advantage. Now, Charvarius Ward will lock Kyle Pitts up. Don't put him on Charvarius Ward. Charvarius Ward he's playing at the highest level I've seen a 49ers cornerback play since, probably Carlos Rogers that first year where he had those 8 to 10 interceptions. I forgot how many interceptions was, but that year Carlos Rogers went off. That's probably the highest cornerback. Maybe no, Richard Sherman and Jason Verrett 2020. Jason Verrett was balling, so I should say Jason Verrett actually, but I think the best way is to attack the linebackers in the passing game for Atlanta, as well as just running the ball. Like, stick to who you are, run the ball, get your 165, 170 yards per game. If you could get that mark, you're going to be competing with the 49ers. And I think at the end of the day, they did pretty well against one of the best run defenses in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? Like, they did fairly well. Even if Marcus Mariota is running the ball, the 49ers struggle against quarterbacks that run the ball like that. So that's my game plan. That is exactly what I would do. Run the ball, attack the linebackers and the slot with Kyle Pitts and Drake London, and have Marcus Mariota a lot of zone reads because you're eventually going to have a defensive end from the 49ers crash down. It happens every time we play a running quarterback, and you're going to get at least 25 yards. So if they could do that, they could be competitive, but they still won't win. So that's the crazy part is like we're talking about how do you win against the 49ers if you're Atlanta, but you can do everything right, and you still won't win. So it is what it is. The Niners are balling right now, man.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the keys that I said, right? Targeting the slot. Carolina did that a ton. I think if we're being honest, Deommodore Lenoir might have given up over 100 yards from scrimmage in this game. And that was in man coverage, and the 49ers played a good amount of zone coverage. He might have given up that much just because he had a couple of chunk plays. And it wasn't like he played bad defense. He was close in coverage on him. It was some good throws. How many points did the Panthers score? That was 15 points. They scored 15 points. And this was probably one of the worst cornerback defended games overall, a performance in general. And that's saying something given that the 49ers still held down and really a good, like some of those yards might have come in garbage time. So to me, yeah, it is tough to defeat the 49ers. You really, especially if you're trying to run the football, because they've been able to shut rushing attacks down, right? Chicago Bears, the team predicated for its rushing. I think they thrashed the Packers the week after they played the 49ers. They rushed for like 2.7 yards. The 49ers are the number one rush defense in the NFL. This is probably their biggest challenge right now, even without Cordell Patterson, even with Tyler Algier in there, and even with Caleb Huntley in there, just because the scheme is running back friendly, and also the running backs have averaged over 5 yards a carry in general, like you said. But I still think the 49ers are favored in this, even without Nick Bosa. and Ark Armstead and Javon Kinlaw, still think they're favored because Hassan Ridgeway has been very underrated. Kevin Givens, I mean, I've been giving Kevin Givens his praises since week 1. They collapsed the line, and I think whoever else fills in, Charles Omenihu has been an underrated star. I mean, we both called that like 7 months ago, so we're not really that surprised at all. Omenihu has been an underrated star, and when you look at the other side, Samson Ebukam is one of the better run defending edges in general.
Man, Kevin Givens for the last 2 to 3 years, I would say, man, has been balling out of control. Like he does not get his love that he deserves. I mean, I'm finally glad that
he'll get his love when that contract comes in.
He should. I mean, that's a guy.
He'll get a Tim Settle contract at least, I think. A 2-year,
Rohan,
$10 million.
Do you remember when I said Kevin Givens was better than DJ Jones?
You said something like that. I remember you said something like that.
Man, I remember saying that because I was like, through what I had said, and I remember the exact like words I said. I was like, Kevin Givens is a better defensive lineman than DJ Jones. He can stuff the run just as good, but he gives you that extra step in the pass rush. And we've seen it throughout the first 5 games of the season as he's in that starting role right now. Kevin Givens is better than DJ Jones. I did not mind the 49ers letting DJ Jones walk. Now, if I could get Kevin Givens on a 2-year, $10 million contract, I sign it immediately because he is that good. He could stuff the run. He could get after the quarterback. I think he is a high-level defensive lineman for the 49ers. And I think if you keep him around guys like Nick Bosa, guys like Charles Omenihu, who they should extend as well, you keep him around. Hopefully, Arik Armstead comes back. There's so many dudes I can name. I'm not going to name them all. But I think he is a hell of a player who the 49ers should definitely extend. Rohan, before we continue, I got to give a shout out to Brian Robinson, who just scored his first touchdown of his career. Man, how do you get shot 2 times, come back in 6 weeks? But his comeback was pretty clean, man. The way they introduced him to many men. By 50 Cent,
that was
man,
so
he was
hard.
running. And that was probably one of the sickest walkouts, runouts I've ever seen, only because I'm probably one of the biggest 50 Cent fans growing up possible. Brian Robinson came back in 6 weeks. That was sick, man. I'm happy to see him score a touchdown right now. Shout out to him. Hopefully he continues and has a good year and career. Going to the 49ers offense. What does Jimmy Garoppolo need to do in order to lead this offense? Because this defense, the Atlanta Falcons defense, in my opinion, is actually better than the Carolina Panthers defense. And a lot of fans were giving that Carolina Panthers defense a lot of praise and love, saying, oh, this defense is good. In my opinion, I get the stats and everything like that. Probably favors the Carolina Panthers defense, but the eye test says Atlanta Falcons is better to me.
I mean, when you look at it, right, the Atlanta Falcons have an underrated defense. I remember there was like a question on Twitter going out before. Oh, somebody asked, who's the best cornerback tandem in the NFL? Because somebody thought, or at least this year, because they thought Mooney Ward and Mosley could be up there. I brought up AJ Terrell and Casey Hayward as a potential, like not necessarily as better, but as a potential duo, because when you talk about those two, Terrell is obviously one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL. Casey Hayward is an underrated cornerback. I thought the 49ers could have gone and grabbed him this year. He signed a 2-year, $10 million deal. Pretty good outside cornerback for the Atlanta Falcons. But when you talk about the players that are kind of rising, Michael Walker is a pretty solid linebacker. You got Rashaan Evans there too. I think Richie Grant. Richie Grant has been the star for the Atlanta Falcons this year. He's been that high riser at safety. Grady Jarrett obviously is there. It's a pretty solid defense overall. But where do I target? It's the same way that the 49ers target in general. Isolate those linebackers, crossing routes, however you do it. It's crossing routes, screen plays, isolate those linebackers in coverage and win through those. That's how Kyle Shanahan has consistently schemed receivers open. No more Deion Jones. He got traded to Cleveland this past week. So I think you, especially with the new faces in that linebacker room now, you got to go isolate that linebacker trio over there in Atlanta and play to your matchups. Favorable matchups could mean another good week for Kittle, or in the likelihood that they try and bracket Kittle, given that it's new faces and trying to limit the line or limit the middle of the field. Those in-breaking routes from the outside from Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, etc. You got to get them.
Yeah, so when you look at the Atlanta Falcons, they oppose a little bit of a situation for the 49ers, right? Like, so if you look at how Derrick Brown, in my opinion, I thought Derrick Brown played a hell of a game for Carolina.
Oh, yeah. He killed Jake Brendel. With all due respect, he killed Jake Brendel.
So, for me, Grady Jarrett is even much better than Derrick Brown, right? Like, so now you match up Grady Jarrett on guys like Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel. You could put him on. I don't know who's going to be, Daniel Brunskill or Spencer Burford. Whoever you match him up on, that is a mismatch for Grady Jarrett. Like he's going to win that battle. He's going to get his fair share of reps, right? And then AJ Terrell. I have to. This is funny. Pause. That made me laugh. I shout out No Border Sports, but when you look at AJ Terrell, what he can do against Deebo Samuel, I'm going to ask you a question: who's better, AJ Terrell or JC Horn?
Terrell.
Fans haven't talked about it, but Deebo Samuel.
I'm not as big of a JC Horn fan as many other people. I know Jesse of Last Second Sports is a huge JC Horn guy. I'm not as big of but when I talk about fan, I don't think he's as good as a lot of people say. I think he's still on the rise, but I think Terrell's better. Yeah.
Man, poor Justin Fields is about to get hurt tonight, man. He every other play he's on the floor, getting up, trying to like stretch off like an injury, like he's banged up. But AJ Terrell, right? Going back to AJ Terrell, in my opinion, JC Horn locked Deebo Samuel. People have not talked about that. I thought he clamped the majority of the game outside of that touchdown and stuff like that. Deebo Samuel was pretty much a non-factor, in my opinion, during that game. So if AJ Terrell could take away Deebo Samuel in the run, because I don't really think Deebo Samuel was a factor much in that Carolina Panthers game. People could be like, "Oh, you're crazy, Marco," like that. From what I saw last week,
I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, I don't know if he got locked. He had the drop, and then obviously the one in the end zone where he should have caught it. He had 9 targets. He only had 2 receptions in the game. Pretty poor catch rating. But those are 2 plays, but you're counting for 5 other targets there. Some were incompletions. Garoppolo did throw behind another play, but like when you look at it, I mean, based on the catch rating itself, you could potentially make an argument like that.
I thought the reason why I say locked up is there's a lot of reps where JC Horn was just in his back pocket before he got injured. He was in his pocket a lot, and I'm like, man, if AJ Terrell could do that to Deebo Samuel, eliminate him from the game, and then now you only got to really worry about Brandon Ayuk over the top. I mean, I'm going to live with Jawan Jennings getting his. Like, I'm going to live with that if I'm a defensive coordinator. So, looking at the 49ers offense, the way you kind of attack this Atlanta Falcons defense, is AJ Terrell's matched up, most likely will be matched up on Deebo Samuel. Maybe Brandon Ayuk, if they decide to take away the number 2 and put 2 on Deebo Samuel, that's a potential possibility. But when you do that, it kind of opens up a little bit more. So, what I would do is I put AJ Terrell, let someone else get on Brandon Ayuk, and then see what the 49ers could do. Because I think the 49ers are going to have to get the pass game going a little bit more this game. I think Atlanta Falcons run defense a little bit better than Carolina Panthers. So they only allow 114 yards per game, which is good enough because if the 49ers hit 100 yards, I think easily they win. But then if you look at what the 49ers did to the Carolina Panthers, during their little spiel, whatever, they give up a lot of rush yards per game. Now they don't compete as much as Atlanta does, and I think that's why Atlanta's kind of competitive. Is they don't give up rush yards, right? So for teams that are playing the 49ers, the key to win is stopping the run. And if you look at the Panthers, the total yards allowed rushing for them before the 49ers played them was under 120. So, but they weren't as good in the run game. So What I mean by as good is like statistically, they might be better, but the eye test shows certain teams are better. Like it's just I trust my eye test over stats sometimes because some stats are completely flawed. Like we look at stuff like that. Again, a lot of bad teams, I guess. So do you think the 49ers need to rely on Tevin Coleman and Jeff Wilson, or do you think they're going to have to rely on Jimmy Garoppolo's right arm?
I don't think they're going to have to rely on Jimmy Garoppolo, in my opinion. I still have faith in the 49ers offensive line and the way that the 49ers are able to utilize the run game. I personally think the 49ers run game is still growing. You see, it's not new concepts, but you see different concepts being inserted into the game plan. Now, before you always saw, these outside zone, the flashy plays, the outside zone plays where the running back hit the edge. You're seeing a good amount of sprinkle from Kyle Shanahan. We obviously saw it first in the first big play in the Rams game, that Zorro that got cut back into a wham play for the touchdown for Jeff Wilson Jr. Now you're seeing a bunch of different cutbacks from the 49ers run game where they misdirect in one way, run the other way. I personally think that is a factor for them. And I think the 49ers are still going to be able to run the ball fairly comfortably against the Atlanta Falcons. But I think it's very important as well, not to rely on Jimmy Garoppolo, but to create a balanced attack. I think that that's another big factor for the 49ers. You saw in this game how they were able to get off to a hot start early because they were balancing it, right? First play action to Jimmy Garoppolo to George Kittle, an easy throw. You had him target George Kittle on another route two plays later on third down. There was a good balance of the pass and the run. And with Jimmy Garoppolo at the helm, without Trey Lance, that's been the norm for the 49ers. They need to continue that, be able to keep the defense off their tails, be able to force the Falcons into different packages, into more nickel packages, so that they can open up the run game so they don't have many stacked boxes as before. And I think that that's what the 49ers need to do offensively if they want to continue their at least recent offensive dominance in this game.
So I want a little bit of because I've been kind of a little gambling a little bit on 49er games, make it a little interesting as a fan. So I'm going to go ahead and read off some numbers because I'm looking at some bets for the 49er players and stuff like that, kind of like prop bets in a way. Let me find them real quick that I have them saved if I still have. So Jimmy Garoppolo, over or under 233 passing yards.
Oh, that's tough. Over or under 230? Is it? Oh, this is like what do you call it? Like the lines and stuff, right? But
yeah,
when we look at it, right? When we look at it last week, Jimmy Garoppolo had 253 yards, but only on 18 completions. It really depends on the efficiency and really will he be consistent. For me right now, I think the 49, I would hit this over. I think he'd get in the range of 230 to 250 passing yards, somewhere in that 245 range. But this also is contingent. Can Jimmy Garoppolo continue to be as efficient as he was not efficient, but as consistent as he was in week 5? If so, then you're going to see this. Why? Because those passing yards, it's not like he will get a ton of opportunity. Yeah, he threw 30 passes, but when you compare it to the completion percentage, only 16%, he threw 18 completions. When I think about Jimmy Garoppolo, I care more about completions than the amount of times that he throws, because if he's throwing it more efficiently, then he's not going to throw the ball as much. If he's throwing it less efficiently, he's going to throw the ball more because they need to get those plays in the air. And so to me, I think that those with 18 completions, those chunk plays need to happen, be it through yak or be it more importantly through the deep pass. We saw it in a couple of plays. That needs to be consistent for that to hit.
So I'm pounding the over because I expect a lot of yards after the catch from Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and Deebo Samuel. Now I have him over so it's half an interception. So I have him at the 1 interception. I think he's going to have over an interception.
Really? Statistics show it. He's never had a game, never had a 3-game stretch in his career.
So I have him on the over on the interception. Now Jeff Wilson, over or under 66 yards rushing.
I think you have to hit the over on that one. It's tough, but Jeff Wilson Jr. has been averaging at least about 15 carries the last couple of weeks, even with Tevin Coleman in the fold. Jeff Wilson Jr. had 17 carries last week, and he likely would have had more if he had been less efficient. He had 120 yards. That's over 7 yards per carry. If you balance that to 5 yards per carry, that's 24 carries. He's had a significant amount of volume. And even if Tyrion Davis-Price potentially returns this week, I believe the 49ers are going to place him as inactive and play Tevin Coleman for another week, give him another rest week until the Chiefs game. And so their backs are going to be Coleman, Mason, and Jeff Wilson Jr. I expect Jeff Wilson Jr. to eclipse 15 carries, and I expect him to eclipse the range that you said 66 or 68.
So 66.
I expect him to hit over that because that's pretty low efficiency. That's 4.4 yards per carry. I think he gets over 4.5, or I think he gets more carries than the 15 carry mark.
So now Deebo Samuel, there's two of them. Just kind of go rapid fire right now, just so we get through a couple more. So Deebo Samuel, 60 yards receiving and 16.5 rushing yards. So 17.
I'm hitting
yards.
the under on both. I think I'll hit the under on both.
Under 60 receiving and under 15 yards rushing.
Yeah, I'll hit the under on both. I don't think he gets enough volume for that. He only had 2 carries last week for 12 yards. He'll be efficient on some of the carries, but if the 49ers are running him more, that's because he's less efficient, in my opinion. When you've seen him rush for more than 5 carries in a game, it's because he's been less efficient. I think I'll hit the under on both.
Now, George Kittle, over 43 receiving yards.
Hitting the over. I think I hit the over in this game. No Deion Jones. I think they target over the middle. Garoppolo has shown that he doesn't care about the tight window. He'll hit it. I'm hitting the over.
So now I'm gonna do 2 on Atlanta. So you have 197 passing yards for Marcus Mariota and over half of an interception.
197, you said? I'll hit 197. I'll hit the under on the 197. I think they run the football a good amount. I'll hit the under on the 197. And then over or under interception, I'll go the over on the interception.
I'm taking the over on the interception, and I'm actually taking the over on the 197 passing yards only because they're going to be garbage time pass yards that he's going to get. That gets him over. He gets him like 205 on passing yards. But that's it on the over under. I like to do a little bit of prop betting, a little bit on the side. I usually place in a bet on the 49ers game just to make it a little interesting. I know we're going to win and everything. So for me, since it's a game I know we're going to win, I'm going to put a little money on it, just a little fun on it. I mean, I usually don't bet on the 49ers unless I know guaranteed they're going to win. And I'm guaranteeing you the 49ers will win this game. Whether people like it or not, I really believe that the Atlanta Falcons are not comparable to the 49ers. They shouldn't even be mentioned with the 49ers because Niners have the best defense in the NFL. And if you don't know, look at the stats. They're number 1 in almost everything statistically, defensively. That's who the 49ers are. They are a smash-mouth football team that likes to run the ball and beat you up on defense. They have a quarterback that could be a game manager now. If he's not turning the ball over, he is a game manager. What is their score prediction?
Score prediction. Now, this is interesting. When you look at the Atlanta Falcons, right, the past couple of weeks, I said it. They've hung into games. I think the 49ers will score 27 points in this game. I think the Falcons will score 27-14. I'll go 27. Let me change it one more time. 27-13. That's my final score prediction for this game.
So we're pretty much close. I have 49ers scoring 24. I have the Atlanta Falcons scoring 13. Now, I need those 6 points fantasy-wise. So hopefully, like, the 49ers, don't let them score touchdowns. Give them, like, 6 field goals. You know, I need points. I'm undefeated fantasy-wise. I don't need the points like that. So, you know, I have Young Ho Koo. So give me the fantasy points. Defense, allow them to kick some field goals, and we both win-win situation. But I think the 49ers do score 24 points. I think they're going to dominate defensively. Everyone's going to have a great Sunday after watching the 49ers win. Victory Monday is going to be fabulous, as always. I believe that is it for our show today. Always stay faithful, 49er fans. Make sure you guys tap in. You're subscribed to the 49ers Red Zone podcast, as well as Rohan's podcast. We are out. We appreciate you guys so much for tuning in, as always.
Yeah, appreciate all y'all. Have a great night, and we will be back very soon. 49ers, let's see if they can get a win this weekend. seems like it'll be in their favor.